Alrighty, good morning everyone.
Good morning.
My name is Attorney Robyn McCoy and I'm the Vice Chair for the International Law Section. And I want to welcome you to the panel on understanding the crisis in Haiti and the global role of lawyers as social engineers. And so at this time I'm going to welcome up our newly elected Chair, Barbara Simmons, for the International Law Section to give remarks.
Thank you, Robyn. And Robyn is our newly elected Vice Chair of the International Law Section. So I am very pleased that you all got up and are with us this morning. It's my pleasure to welcome you. I want you to know that the International Law Section of the National Bar Association, we are prepared to launch into a major event. One of our panelists is co-chair with me of the ILS, International Law Section, ADR Section, African Continental Free Trade Area Agreement Initiative. If you don't know, Africa has created its own version of the World Trade Organization, and so that will be the largest trade area on the globe, and the Secretary General has been gracious enough to involve us. He is very committed to having African American lawyers involved in the process, so stay tuned on that. So I want to acknowledge Robyn because the only reason this CLE is happening is because she was committed to making it happen. She put everything together, and that's why I'm so pleased she's now my Vice Chair, because she's the kind of person when she commits to something, she follows through, she works hard, and she does whatever it takes to make it happen. So I'm so happy to have Robyn McCoy as the Vice Chair of the International Law Section. We know this is going to be a very information impact, but what we also want to do is to end in talking about what are some of the actual steps we can take to move forward, because, you know, we're good at talking, but the action is what really matters. So with that, I want to welcome Ms. McCoy back.
Thank you, Barbara. I actually went to University of Chicago, and both of my best friends, Marcia Baker, Dr. Marcia Baker, and Joan Pierre, they're Haitian, they made me your honorary Haitian. And they actually helped to co-sponsor this event, so I want to give them a shout out to Marcia and Joan. They're my sister friends. We created an academic support network for Black women at the University of Chicago. What brought me to this topic of understanding the crisis in Haiti and the global role of lawyers as social engineers is because I just was hearing about what was happening in Haiti, and I was like, hey, we've been doing stuff in the Ukraine, we've been doing stuff in Israel, but we got Black folk in our backyard that are struggling, and there's been a historical issue with Haiti. I mean, we had if there was a glorious past with Toussaint Louverture, with the fight for liberation from slavery, and then it just seems like it's like a roller coaster, up and down situation for Haitian folk, and we have a lot of Haitian folk here in America that have significantly contributed to America, what we've done, and so that's why I brought this panel here. We have, I want to thank everybody that's helped me with putting this together. Some of them are panelists, but I'll start with, if you could raise your hand, Gary. Gary Juste, who is the former acting mission director, USAID Haiti. And so I'm going to briefly read some of his bio. He's a retired USAID Minister Counselor and is a distinguished international development executive and procurement expert with a 27-year career. He managed USAID mission in Africa, Latin America, Europe, and the Middle East, addressing violent extremism, humanitarian crises, and fostering community resilience. Born in Port-au-Prince, Haiti, Gary holds a BA in political science, pre-law from Norfolk State University, and a UN graduate certificate from Long Island University. So Gary. So, yeah, thank you. And next we have Johanna LeBlanc. And I am gonna go, let's see, I'm trying to, we had an adjustment with our panel because, actually I'm gonna get her bio from the other book. Because one of our panelists, yeah, thank you. One of our panelists got caught up with the flight issues, so, and Johanna was initially on the panel, and then, so she's here assisting us as well. So Johanna is Haitian American trained lawyer with a focus on national security law and foreign policy. She is a partner of Adomi Africa Advisory Group, where she advises a wide range of clients on foreign policy related matters. She currently serves as a member of the Military Observation Commission Project, MOCP. She previously served as a legislative director at the United States Congress, where she advised a member of Congress on domestic and international related matters. She was also responsible for advancing U.S. foreign policy and economic security trade diplomacy. And prior to that role, she was a senior foreign policy advisor to 3 sitting Haitian ambassadors to the, the U.S. and the Ministry of Foreign Affairs. So, Johanna LeBlanc, welcome. Yes, and finally we have Tazzy, or Natassia Janvier. Is it Janvier?
Janvier, that's right.
Janvier, okay. And she is a Haitian immigrant raised in Miami, Florida. She's the 58th National Chair of the National Black Law Students Association, where she advocates for Black law students nationwide. And it says, as an NAACP Legal Defense Fund Marshall Motley Scholar, she is dedicated to civil and human rights. Her international perspective on global Blackness shapes her advocacy from providing legal aid to asylum seekers to researching workers' rights in Haiti. And so what we're gonna do, well, first, I have a sign-in sheet. I know they said you can go to your QR code, but we're doing this anyway, just in case, okay? So put your name, your state. I put P number, because in Michigan we have a P number, but I know you guys don't call it P number. Put your P number and your email.
What's your P number, sis?
Bar number. Your bar number. Okay, let me change it right now. Bar number. Because in Michigan, it's, so, okay, and your email. And this, when we talked about this with our committee that worked on this, this is part 1. We anticipate that there will be a part 2 where we, continue the discussion. And so at this time, I'm going to turn it over to Mr. Gary Juste to give his presentation. And where did Kyle go? Let's see, I'm trying to get. Okay, here it is. Mr. Juste.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Are we awake? I'm trying to be awake. Good morning, everybody. Thank you so much for coming out this morning. Thank you, Robyn, for this description. And welcome. Co-speaker on this event. Today, I am interested in doing this because I was born in Haiti to begin with, and I spent my entire career. I did Navy, I did everything, working in the U.S. government, because I came in at a very young age, and the interest in Haiti has always been with me, of course. The thing is, the majority of the Haitian population have been suffering from the time that it was independent. And the way I see it is, you see I'm carrying the flag right here, is that flag has strangled Haitians all that period of time. And that's the way I see it too. Because we keep doing the same thing and we don't resolve the problem by looking at how to address what we really feel. And so today I'm asked about what is happening in Haiti now. In order for one to understand what's happening in Haiti now, one has to understand how it got to be where it's at. And so I'm not going to go back to 200 years of history. First of all, I'm not a historian. I haven't written that much to say that I am. But I do know a few things going down the line. I've experienced a few things because I was in Haiti after the earthquake in 2010, working for USAID as the head of the contracting office to spend the $2 billion that they were spending in recovery for Haiti. So there's a lot of stories behind that, a lot of experiences that came out of that. And then in 2019, after there was all these blockades, I went back to Haiti for a year as a mission director, and then had some experiences with that. And hopefully, well not hopefully, I think I will address your question more thoroughly with this presentation. And so today's news, how do you get to the next slide? Guy Coney, who's the new prime minister, was also a prime minister when I was there between 2010 and 2013 under Martelly, and Martelly fired him 4 months later. He had been worked for the UN in his career, in UN Ops, and we got to meet with each other. And there's a lot of reasons why that happened to him in those 4 months. But now that he's back, he's trying to put things on the right road with what the UN has passed to do what is best for Haiti now. I wish him a lot of luck, and I want to support him. And I know, although the way they started it, it's kind of like, he has to say what he's saying. For example, the Ghanaians, Sergei asked, to sit at the table, and he said, there's no sitting at the table until you lay down your arms. Which is the right statement to make, but when one is looking in security, as far as putting security together, these gangs have managed to close all the ports, to keep the prime minister from coming back into the country. So they are in all these neighborhoods in Port-au-Prince. There has to be a way to address them. And it's not like these kind of things weren't addressed, security issues weren't addressed before. If you recall, Kagame addressed them after the genocide in Rwanda. Kagame's approach was, after he took power, was to have the Hutus be part of his government. And that made a whole lot of difference to a lot of Rwandans, including with banker that I met, that told me, as we were having lunch, he said, yeah, when I went back to my house, the people that assassinated my family were still there. Wow. And he said, you know what I wanted to do? I said, yeah, I know what you wanted to do. You wanted to shoot him. He said, I didn't do it because my leader took a different approach. And this is the kind of thing that, and he went further to have neighborhoods by neighborhood, judging whoever committed crimes and so on. And I think, as part of the solution going into Haiti, we may want to entertain how to reconcile in the dealings with the gangs. I'm just putting that out there for what it's worth, okay? Also, in current news, the ambassador that he chose to be for the Ministry of Foreign Affairs is a very young lady. Dominique Dupree. And she started to fire all the ambassadors in countries that were representing Haiti that weren't doing anything. She's doing that right now, as we speak. That's news. And that's good, because that's when you started to deal with the level of corruption. It's no longer the kind of thing that we can continue to have. Again, that's why I think we need to take the opportunity now that the UN has taken this approach to bring a multi-force into Haiti to give us this gap, to take that period of time to put things in place so that when elections take place, you have things that's going to change the dynamics a little bit so that the majority of the Haitian population get a chance. Let's see. This was done to UN Security Council Resolution 2699. As you can see over here, as I mentioned, the root causes of instability of Haiti. If you want to think about the root causes of instability of Haiti, there are many reasons. You can go back to 200 years, you can say poverty, you can say, but I want to start with, how did we get to have gangs that are taking power over the country? How did we get there? Well, from my perspective, and people can correct me if I'm wrong, in 1995, when President Aristide went back and disbanded the army and had to have his own security, and the private sector said, we got to have our own security, everybody started having their own armed groups in country that is not under the authority of one command. And we all know, if you have armed groups in a country, you need to have it under one command. When we go to war, where do we go first? Command center, right? Because that's what so it was bound to happen, because now politicians in Haiti, the way they run their elections is with their own armed security people. And so after a while, the private sector does the same thing to protect their businesses. And so with all of that, you end up having this group of guys eventually evolving, saying, well, if we've been taking this money for these bosses, we can take the money for ourselves. So they continue to do the kidnapping and so on. And what's to say they're not going to do the same thing continually? Even though Juste has asked to sit at the table, he also has said, until they do that, he's not going to lay down arms per se, but that's just rhetoric, and we know that. But that has to be addressed, because they did go by neighborhood to take over the regions in the Port-au-Prince. And as part of the news that I said earlier, Guy Conin has stated that he's going from neighborhood to neighborhood, because that's part of the security solution, is to go into the neighborhoods by neighborhood. But what these guys have done already is bought, move? Just technical difficulties. Okay, so going back to that whole situation with the gangs, we want to take the opportunity now to address this differently in a way that we don't have the same thing happen. Because with this resolution of 2699, it's very similar to what the UN has done in the past. The rhetoric is perfect, right? But you got to find the right mechanisms to put things in place. And I think we have this small window right now. We need to take advantage of it. And I think the lawyers at NBA can also help us and get there. I have a couple of solutions I'll discuss in a minute, but I can actually see where one can plug in and do something that's different. I'm a big believer in electronic, IT, using IT to move things forward in developing countries, because it's a lot cheaper than what we used to do in the past, and it's a lot more effective. See, if we can transfer money at 2 o'clock in the morning while we're sitting, like I did, in the middle of the night, to my lawyer per se, with authenticity, the technology exists for us to do a lot of things. It's just a matter of political will to get it done, and finding a way to find the right mechanisms to get it done. And I'll go into that further later. Here, the role of the Haiti's oligarchs. And the statement that was said from that Village Voice, the way I read it, it's very much Aristide position on the subject. Doesn't mean that it's not true. That is his position on it, and one has to respect that because a lot of it is true, because the Haitian society, to some extent, the Germans, for example, they married Haitians so that they could own property in Haiti. Because Dessalines had said, you can't, no whites can own any property in Haiti, and so they married. So that was a way of doing it. And so that's a way of continuing that whole process of separation between the vast majority of the Haitian people to the economic opportunities in the country. There's an ambassador had told, well, I witnessed an ambassador said to a Haitian senator, the day that you can bring $1 million Haitians in front of my embassy, that's when I'll listen to what you have to say. Okay, well, I'll listen to your question. But that made me realize, not that I was just involved with it, but it made me realize that one has to be, you have to mobilize in order for you, and there's power in mobilizing folks, right? And so there are ways to electronically get consent of the people, I think. For example, we here send letters to our senators and congressmen to NGOs all the time. The NGO says all you have to do is enter your name in the little box right there, and then boom, sign letter goes to President Biden and whatnot. I think, and in Haiti, people will say they don't have the technology for you to get that kind of response from the communities. Not true, because one Haitian may have a phone, but 10 people can be on the same phone. A lot of people have access to the internet that way. I know this because the cook that was at my house, his son, when I called her, his son would answer the phone, his father would get the phone. You know, it's like a whole unit. Maybe they can all afford a phone, but they all can have access. And so to me, I don't buy the argument that you need to have them to be in a certain status in order for them to participate in something that you know. If there's a politician or otherwise, an NGO and so on that's looking to get people to back up what they want to do in Haiti, there's a way to do it. That's what I'm suggesting as far as having consent. And if you can get 1 million, you're definitely going to get everybody's attention. And like I said, the communication tools and uses technologies as nobody's solutions is really a key to me about moving things more in a transparent way than we would have otherwise. So in this, I have this three-legged stool solution that I want to go into a little bit. One is security that I talked about, going from neighborhood to neighborhood and so on, and doing the reconciliation aspect and approach to resolving, trying to resolve that and trying to get the current government that's in place with the Prime Minister, whom, by the way, did not make friends with the 9-people presidential council when he sent them an email at 3 o'clock in the morning saying, I'm going to the States tomorrow. And that has not been taken. But he had to take that step, I think, if he's going to be moving the country forward. Because that 9-headed presidential council is 9-headed because they couldn't get together enough to have one head to represent the country. And so, and a lot of the same players that were financing the gangs are represented on the table. And so I can see that when you're gonna have elections in 2 years from now and whatnot, those same groups are gonna start fighting each other the same way that they have done in the past. So all the money we're spending now can be for that. I'm not wishing that. Not at all. I am not wishing that at all. I want us to make progress. And I think we ought to support the current UN the Prime Minister doing things that they are doing and communicate to them what we think is in the best interest of Haiti. I say here the sectors that need the most improvement are in service delivery in developing countries. That's because there's a thing called impact bonds. And I have somebody that's doing a study on impact bonds, and what it is that you send out something, you compete, and the government issues a bond for you to provide that service in those communities. And that's a good way of raising funds. That's a good new way of approaching, taking an approach that's different. Just this week, the General Hospital was liberated, so-called liberated, from the gangs. The General Hospital that in 2011, well, I, as AID and the French, were putting $25 million to renovate that hospital. And it's, there's a number of stories that goes along with that, but just to say that it is so corrupt, it was so corrupt even then, that if you wanted to have your medication, you could find it on the street, but you could find it inside the hospital. Because people would sell this stuff. You know, people that have access to the thing would sell it and stuff. And they would also send, some doctors were so corrupt that they would do the surgeries at their own private housing and stuff. And so those things need to be addressed. Anyway, if you want to hear more about this, I'll share with you, okay? E-government procurement. I'm strong in procurement. If you have e-procurement, you have less, you have more transparency and who's bidding and all of that. That can be done. Technology exists for it to be done. There's a study that we had recently that looks very good on Haiti to do e-government procurement and also electronic voting. You can do that using technology to do it. Now, given the monopolies that exist in the different sectors in Haiti, it's going to be hard. It's not going to, those guys refuse, whether it was Juste or anybody else, to the guys that hold the economic reins, won't let go just like that. Because, and that's the part I want to talk about, is the finance. The financing of it. The Haitian government is unable to pay its own bills. And so what happens when you get unable to pay your bills? You got to get help from outside. What happens when you got to get help from outside? You're dependent. You got to go with the policies of those that are giving you funds to pay your bills. It's like having a child that's 40 years old and still hasn't been able to take care of himself. And so the way I look at that is that if you have a monopoly in Haiti and doing something like 80% of the petrol that comes into Haiti is under your reins, you have to pay. You have to pay you have to pay to play. And there's a way that the government can look at that. If you have that much power, you should contribute to your own security. You should contribute to all the government services are providing in a significant way. And you can do that without having, I think, without having a break. You can't do that by making it in their own interest. Maybe I am being an idealist, as I was once told. but it's really, it's where we have to make the changes in order for us not to face that same situation tomorrow. Garbage in, garbage out, you know? But we spend a lot of money. They're spending about $600 billion on this effort right now of having 200 soldiers from Kenya to come over to provide security in Haiti, right? And the General Hospital was just taken over, and now the Haitian National Police want to take credit for it, so there's a lot of different computations are coming out of that story. And finally, on this topic of what's going on in Haiti right now, look at this picture. This woman is crossing Panama into Colombia and wading through water. Look how big that child is. That takes a lot of courage. You can't tell me that this woman wherever her destination is, right, that she's not going to contribute to society. And she shouldn't be there, because if there was enough opportunity in Haiti, she wouldn't be there. Do I talk about the Haitian reparations now?
Well, I see, I know that Johanna has a limited time, so we'll go with Johanna and then Tazzy, and then we'll circle back to you.
Thank you very much.
Okay, so at this time, I'm gonna welcome Attorney Johanna LeBlanc up to the podium to speak about the issue, like, so with Mr. Juste, we asked him to cover the historical context of the Haitian crisis, efforts to provide multinational security support, reparations. We'll come back to him to talk about, he covered the other areas, but he'll come back to talk about reparations. Johanna, we're asking to talk about ensuring immediate humanitarian assistance and the extension of the temporary visa, and whatever other, because she is a foreign service expert, so whatever other information she has to provide us. So without further ado, Attorney Johanna LeBlanc.
Good morning, everyone. Good morning. Thank you so much, Ms. Barbara and the Vice Chair, for organizing this incredible event. As you all know, Gerline Joseph, who leads the Haitian Bridge Alliance, an organization that is essentially at the forefront of fighting for the rights of migrants in the United States and certainly at the U.S.-Mexico border. She was unable to make it due to some flight delays. So I was asked to step in and support this morning. So I don't have a PowerPoint, unfortunately, but I will speak to temporary protected status, the administration's current position on it, and some of the humanitarian issues impacting the Republic of Haiti. As Robyn indicated, I worked as a senior foreign policy advisor to 3 city Haitian ambassadors to the United States, as well as the Ministry of Foreign Affairs. And my role was to defend the interests of the state of Haiti before the U.S. Congress, the White House, the State Department, and various financial institutions, focusing primarily on trade, bilateral investment, sanctions, and military-related matters. Left the Haitian government, went on Capitol Hill, got to work on Haiti issues, which was a very unique opportunity because at that point, I had the perspective, I had the Haitian government perspective because I was defending the interests of the state, and now my job was to defend the United States interests, right? And then as a Haitian American who was born in Haiti, so I'm part of the diaspora, so I also had that perspective, and also with my legal training. So I was able to tackle the issues impacting the Republic of Haiti from different lenses and different angles because of my experience. And I always say this, working for the Haitian government was one of the greatest honors of my career, because it really gave me an opportunity to contribute to the development of my birth country by utilizing my incredible education that I've been able to receive here in this country, and also been able to really help to strengthen relations with 2 countries that I love, both the United States as well as my birth country. But in any event, as you all know, with Haiti right now is at a turning point. And in order to understand Haiti, you have to look at the history of the country. As you all know, the country gained its independence in 1804 through a bloody revolution with France. And what a lot of people fail to realize is that the fight for liberation was not just merely about Haitians liberating themselves from the oppression and suppression of France. It was also about Haitians liberating other Black folks all over the world. As we know, a year after the country gained its independence in 1805, the country amended its constitution to make it such that anyone who is Black who were to step foot on Haiti's soil will be considered free, A white man could not own land in the country, nor be a slave master. So those sort of laws severely undermine the notion of white supremacy and imperialism, right? Because as we all know, white supremacy and slavery and colonialism have always been about utilization of black bodies to gain economic power. So Haiti did not have only gained its independence, but now the country wants to liberate other black folks. The audacity, how dare you? So if you are to understand Haiti currently, you have to understand what the liberation movement meant for not just for Haiti, but the black race. I mean, when the Haitian independence was gained, it was even before the Berlin Conference in Africa had taken place. At the time, slavery was booming here in America. In fact, it had sparked a movement here in America by enslaved people, because they heard, you heard those black folks down there in Haiti, they're liberated, perhaps we could do the same thing. And I always tell people this, we're in this together, right? Whether you are in the Republic of Haiti, or in the Caribbean in general, in America, or in the African continent, we're fighting the same fight. And while there are some cultural differences, but there's so much more that unites us than what divides us, right? And I know that, in a society where resources are limited, there tends to be fight within different groups about resources, right? But the reality is that the big issue is corporate America. It's not that person who came into the country who's been hired as maybe as an attorney, as a housekeeper, whatever the case may be. That is not your problem. We have to come together and fight corporate greed together, and that is when we truly will be free. And none of us are free until all of us are free. None of us. So we have to be, and we are so interconnected, right? And a lot of times, I understand the domestic issues impacting our nation, such as, the high student debt crisis, the high cost of living, the issues around maternal death while, women are delivering children. I understand the domestic challenges are dire. But we also have to pay attention to what's happening globally. Because if COVID-19 did not teach us how interconnected we are, I don't know what will. We saw how one person was infected in a place called Wuhan, China, a place that many of us had never heard of. And it brought down to the collapse of our global economy. We saw that. We saw how millions of people in this country died as a result, right? So we have to pay attention, and we have to be committed to fighting some of these issues collectively. And I think the National Bar Association plays a critical role. And historically, the National Bar Association has been at the forefront of addressing some of these social challenges impacting the global community, from fighting against the apartheid regime in South Africa, and so many other social issues. But as it relates to the Republic of Haiti, currently the country is facing a humanitarian crisis. We're talking about more than 500,000 people in the country have been displaced as a result of gang violence. Right before Prime Minister, interim Prime Minister Gali Conil took power, 80% of the country's capital, which is Port-au-Prince, was controlled by gangs. So that means there's a restriction of movement by people. All right. There's also folks not having the ability to gain access to proper care. They need to go to the hospital. They need to go to school. It was very restrictive because of the gang violence. And we're talking about a system where people are being kidnapped for ransom, right? And we know the drivers behind some of these gang violence. For example, Haiti does not manufacture weapons. There's an arms embargo on Haiti. And we know the guns are coming from Florida, Georgia, and they're coming from Texas. So if the United States is really concerned about addressing the insecurity issue in the country, we have to go to the root cause, which is the illicit flow of weapons into the country. And not just Haiti, the entire Caribbean region is facing a crisis with these weapons entering into the region. And obviously we have our own issues here in this country. We can't even address our own gun challenges, right? So it's tough, but I do believe that we do have the technology, we do have the resources, if we have the political will I'm not saying that we can limit it completely, because bad actors will always find a way. And how this has been done is through the shipment of cars and cargoes, so they put them in cars and they end up getting to Haiti. So we do have the technology, and if we have the political will, we can limit the number of guns that are being sent to Haiti. And then we also know a lot of these gangs are financed by different groups, by political elites and the oligarchs. In fact, the United States government has sanctioned a number of individuals in Haiti for their role in financing gangs in the country. But I will take it a step further, because a lot of these sanctions merely cancel their visas, right? And some of these folks have money. If you're just going to cancel someone's visa, there are about more than 160 countries in the world, and you can live pretty good outside of the United States. It doesn't really bother them that much, right? So what we have to do is we'll take it a step further and restrict their ability to use U.S. financial systems, right? And we have to start seizing their assets, right? You have to hit them where it hurts. You have to hit them in the pocket. I mean, if I'm a millionaire and you restrict my visa, so what? I go to Spain, I go to South Africa. There are many other countries I can live comfortably. So if we are going to really address one of these issues, just be serious. These visa sanctions are not sufficient, right? Because again, we have the tools, we have the resources. Even though I do have issues with sanctions, because I think it's, sometimes most of the time it's a violation of one due process. I have some concerns there, so I'm a bit conflicted. But right now, it's the absolute best tool that the United States has, and we have to find a way to reform our sanctions process here in this country. And then so, why do I say all of this? Because you have to understand where the humanitarian crisis is coming from and why you have the influx of people coming into the United States, right? Because most of these people don't want to leave their homes. Who wants to come to a foreign land? They don't even speak the language, right? And we're not talking about just Haitians at the U.S.-Mexico border. We're talking about people from the African continent, from Mali, from Congo, from Ghana, from everywhere, from Jamaica, right? From China, from Ukraine, from Russia. These are the people at the U.S.-Mexico border, right? And we have to look at the role that the United States has played in the underdevelopment of some of these countries, to the point where these folks have to flee their countries. We know the U.S. has a history of supporting puppets, for lack of a better word, who have not always served in the best interest of their people, but yet served in the best interest of the U.S.'s interest. And that is a fact, and it has brought to the destabilization of these various countries, economically, politically, socially, and otherwise, to the point where they have to flee their homes and come to our shores. And then we're saying, well, you can't come in, right? And we're talking about people who walk miles and days and months. And I'll share a little story with you. I have a cousin who went through that path, right? Walked for months to get to the border because he was fleeing from insecurity, from political persecution in the country. And the guy, as he was traversing various dangerous rivers, alligator cut his leg off, right? Do you think people want to go through that? And there are people who don't survive the journey, they die. And you have to talk about women and girls who are being raped on the way. And we're talking about some of the companies that actually facilitate this process, who are taking advantage of people. You have people who are selling all of their resources, their land, their clothes, their children's future, so that they can hopefully make it to America, so they can at least have an access to the American dream, whatever that is here in America. Because their country have been completely destabilized, and we're partly responsible for it as America. That is the reality. And not to mention, because we can't always blame the United States' role in the destabilization of these countries, some of their own governments have also played a role, and as someone who have worked who work with foreign governments, and I can tell you this, some governments don't always have the best interests of their clients, of their country at heart. They have the interest of, let's say, a political party. I'll give you an example. When Jovenel, the former president of Haiti, was assassinated, was in power, I was actually a senior foreign policy advisor then. It was during the Trump administration. And to be frank, the door was wide open for Haiti to negotiate whatever Haiti wanted. There was this vote taking at the Organization of American States. The U.S. had encouraged, which means you must, had encouraged member states to vote to not recognize Maduro as a legitimate leader of Venezuela. So, as a foreign policy advisor, I made a recommendation that, because historically we've always had a great relationship with Venezuela for various reasons. I said, okay, I understand politics. Sometimes you just gotta do what you gotta do for the interest of your country. If we're gonna take this position to not recognize Maduro, there are certain things that we must ask the U.S. government. Well, the only thing that was asked of the Trump administration at the time was to ensure that President Williams remained in power. That was the only thing that was asked. That's the reality. So, yes, foreign policy has not always worked, but we need leaders in Haiti that are patriotic, that are committed to the people, that are committed to service, to move the country forward. Because even if the United States were to one day wake up and say we're going to craft policies that are mutually beneficial for both nations, if you don't have the right leaders in office in Haiti, it would certainly be a missed opportunity. So all of these different issues, again, lead to folks coming to the border, to the influx of migrants coming into this country. So recently, the United States did extend and redesignate Haiti for temporary protected status. One of the elements for countries to meet that criteria is that you have to have a humanitarian crisis or a natural disaster, which Haiti checks all the boxes. I mean, you're talking about a number of folks who've been displaced, and quite frankly, they can't go back to the country right now. It's just not. They're just not. So it's been extended for another, I believe another 2 years or so. Don't quote me. But every so often, it has to be. They have to reassess the country's condition and then redesignate, right? So those folks get a work permit, and they get to contribute to the U.S. economy. They're not just here getting handouts, social programs. They actually go to work and pay taxes and contribute to the U.S. economy. There's data about how much TPS and DACA recipients contribute to the U.S. economy annually, which when you have time, I think it might be useful for you to look at. And then obviously, and what's interesting is that while the United States acknowledges that the country is, the insecurity issue in Haiti is grave. In fact, it's so grave that the United States had to pull all of its personnel out of Haiti from the U.S. Embassy. And the resolution at the UN was adopted, which was led by the United States government, drafted by the United States government, and President William Ruto has stepped up to the plate and said his country would lead the mission, and about 200 officers from Kenya were deployed recently into the country to help address the insecurity crisis. And while I applaud President Ruto's commitment to a global peace and security, but absent of addressing the root cause of the issues in Haiti, it will be like throwing gas on fire. So the root cause of the issues must be addressed. Again, the illicit flow of weapons into the country, you have to address it. The sanctioning of the oligarchs, the political elites who are contributing to the insecurity crisis in the country must be addressed. And as my co-panelists indicated, there has to be a consensus. Yes, the Presidential Council is now in place, which is led by 9 individuals. 2 of them do not have voting powers. and acting Prime Minister Gali Konim is the head of the country, and obviously there's no president, because you do have to organize elections, and I do pray that, because the mandate for the interim Prime Minister is 2 years, so elections are scheduled to take place next year in 2025, and the goal is to have a new president in the country by February 7th of 2026. So it is my hope that the country will be able to organize free, fair, transparent, and inclusive elections, and where you can have a good number of the population actually involved and engaged in the electoral process. Because what we have seen in the past is that the voting participation has been incredibly low, and as a result, when you do elect a president, there's still this illegitimacy because not enough people participate in the process. They do not recognize that president as their president. So, and how do you get a participation? You have to have consensus. You have to bring all the actors to the table. You just, and I think my colleagues spoke to that a little bit. Again, it is paramount because right now the country does not have any elected official. So Prime Minister Konim was appointed. So was the Presidential Council. There's not one elected person in the country. It is a sad time for democracy in Haiti, but I do understand that just having elections is not a sign of true democracy. The true sign of democracy is when everybody can participate in the electoral process. And we're going to need lawyers from the National Bar Association, from the International Law Section, to be a part of that process, to go down to Haiti to observe the process, and to make sure everything happens in a fair and transparent, in a smooth manner. So I'm going to stop here, and I look forward to a more in-depth discussion with you guys later as a panelist. So thank you.
Johanna, and so we're going to welcome Tazzy Janvier, who is a law student, and I've asked her to, she has a PowerPoint. Kyle, can you come up and help with that? So I've asked her to talk about our roles as global lawyers and social engineers. So without further ado, I give you Natassia Janvier.
If you have questions, we have cards for you to write down your questions so you don't lose the train of thought on that. You like your questions? Oh, two-sided. Give me some extra cards. No.
Shout out to Nurse Pam, that's my mom walking around. Oh, and shout out to Kyle Caldwell. He's our videographer, photographer, tech support, and his assistant Ed is with him as well. And my partner Ed Taylor is here as well.
Okay, I think it's good morning, yes. Good morning, everyone. Thank you so much for being here, and thank you to the section for allowing me to be a part of this panel. I'm truly honored and grateful. As you heard, my name is Natassia Janvier. I was born in Port-au-Prince, Haiti, and raised in the United States. I call Miramar, Florida, right outside of Miami, home. And I have to say that because it's a disclaimer, if anybody is from Florida, you know it's a rivalry between Broward County and Dade County, but both of them are home for me. But I am excited to get into the role of lawyers as social engineers in the crisis in Haiti, because for me this is deeply personal. As a current law student at Howard Law, I knew before even seeking my legal degree, Black liberation and access to these sort of spaces shouldn't just be by happenstance. It shouldn't just be by luck. It shouldn't just be because I was one of the chosen few who had an opportunity to gain access to a legal education, higher education, and be able to continue my social mobility for my family. And a part of that is because access to resources, right? So before we even talk about the role of lawyers as social engineers, I really want to get a temperature check of the audience in naming why did we all come to this panel? Why did you find it as an interest for you to show up today to learn about the interconnectedness of us as Black lawyers, Black attorneys, matriculating, well, soon to be right here, let me claim that, but soon to be in you all for the interconnectedness in Haiti. If anybody wants to share for a few seconds why you decided to come to this panel. Yes.
I'll share first. I came as Robyn's mom, of course, but also because the way that our propaganda media has presented basically chaos going on in Haiti, and they're not really focusing on. I came here to find out what really is going on in Haiti, get the real news, not propaganda, not as a whole country, that kind of thing. And as a nurse, I'm very concerned about humanitarian efforts and healthcare. I don't know what's going on over there, basically, and I'd like to know what my group of healthcare providers can do at this point, really take action and do to help what's going on in Haiti.
Thank you. Let's take one more. Yes, sir, back there.
My name is Leroy Wilson Jr., and my overall interest is in trying to make connections between or among attorneys in the Caribbean, in the United States, and in Africa of African descent. So I am in the process of trying to connect all these.
Oh, and I see we've had more people that have joined us. We have a sign-in sheet that's going around. There's a QR code, so make sure you sign in. I think you can register via, or show that you attended through the QR code, but we're having you sign in anyway because I know, just to make sure. Also, if you want to get the PowerPoints, we can email them to you.
And also, I was informed that the QR code is not currently, the technician for that is not currently on site, so you must sign the sheet if you do want to make sure that you can get the credits.
Okay, and I saw we had another audience member who had raised their hand.
Okay, yes, ma'am. Did you want to share, ma'am, in the bread?
Oh, yeah. Good morning. I'm Cheryl Bernard Shaw from California, and two things motivated me. One, I attended the this past Sunday's morning prayer breakfast, and the pastor there, Reverend Haynes from Friendship West in Texas, said a lawyer is a parasite unless you're a social engineer. And he really kind of inspired us to take action here. He was really trying to get us all motivated to look. We're not in an ideal situation here in America. We are still, I think, oppressed racially and financially and health-wise, as you saw with the pandemic, how many millions of people we lost. And I think we still are targeted, just like Haiti is left to struggle on its own because of them being, usurping the lay of the land in terms of slavery. So I think you guys, people in Haiti, are still suffering. I see them as our partners in a lot of ways, and very similar in terms of how we're treated, despite us being in the United States. I think we're still under severe oppression and racism and financial isms that we have not addressed to this day. So.
Thank you all for sharing. I really resonate with the sentiments that were shared by folks in the audience, particularly because for me, to start this conversation with social engineering in thinking about our interconnectedness with Haiti, it makes me think about why. Why is Haiti important? And I think we can't address the conversation with social engineering without addressing what does it mean to you. For me, Haiti means so much to me because as the first Black liberated country, it is a symbol but an actual tangible thing that I can look to as hope. When we think about what civil rights looks like in the US, when we think about internationally human rights, what that looks like, there has been a country who has paved the way to show us exactly that it can happen with Black scholars, Black leaders, Black people coming together. So first point of action when we think about how we can contribute in several ways is learning our history. If we don't know our own history, they will tell us what our history is, and as we already know, they don't tell us the truth. So in my experience in coming to the United States and being raised in the United States and learning what does assimilation look like, why do people now honor and like to hear, Haitian accent or comme parler Creole, all those things, those cultural nuances, it's because the more that we can break up the African diaspora, the better that oppression wins. The overall idea that Black people are subgroups, African Americans or Caribbean folks, and this intentional effort to dilute our history, I think is a point of reference for us to think about. Our first point of action is to understand what is our history. The Haitian Revolution is Black history, and it was never taught in schools, and there's a reason for it. So, as a point of reference, I really want to make sure that we're able to learn what sources we can use, right? I'm not going to just give out information and not also give some sort of reference. So, something that I want to reference to you all is the Black Jacobson, which is a really good book for you all to learn more about the history of Haiti, specifically the Haitian Revolution, and it will give you some insight that will be helpful to take outside of just this space. And then another book for reference is The Avengers of the New World, the story of the Haitian Revolution, and this is just the beginning point. There's also podcasts and audiobooks that are available via whatever stream of references that you guys like to listen to, and I think those are really excellent ways to be able to just know your history and understand the importance of it. Second is legal advocacy and representation. So when we think about legal advocacy and representation, I think that there's so much talent in this room that we can capitalize on. As a law student after completing my first year, I was able to do a program going back to Florida, helping folks who were detained in detention centers and looking at the conditions in detention centers and how folks are not speaking about the conditions being even worse than prison. The type of food that people are given to eat. Sometimes it's just a piece of bread. Sometimes it's a piece of fruit, and that being something that they have to sustain themselves for days. It got even worse after the pandemic because most of those conditions went under the radar. There's actually a detention center in Jacksonville, Florida, that's right now being sued for their conditions. And I think that's important because when we think about the people who are composing these detention centers, they're Black and brown people, Black Haitian people, Black people. And I think that I want to make sure that we elevate that and being able to know it's our duty to do our own research to know how we can show up in those spaces, whether we're providing legal assistance to folks who are seeking asylum. Unlike folks who are citizens, a lot of folks who are immigrants do not have access to legal representation because they're not afforded that via the Constitution. It's not their constitutional right to have access to legal representation. Therefore, a lot of them end up going through the legal system on their own, half the times not even able to understand the full scope and depth of the things that they're facing. So I really want to make sure that you all know that those are localized opportunities for you all to use your legal education, and there's volunteer opportunities that you'll be trained to talk through what does those legal representations look like and be able to contribute in that way, and it's tangible. It won't take long for you to be able to contribute in that way. And then the last piece is community empowerment and education. So community empowerment and education, there's two things that I want to highlight as a point of reference and sources for you all. The National Alliance for the Advancement of Haitian Professionals is one of the sources of reference, and there's actually a website that they have. I don't know if it will pull up. Okay, here it is. You all can consider contributing monetarily to organizations that are doing the work, that are helping advance the country in that way, and also thinking about it in a domestic sense. They actually have a conference happening in Atlanta, Georgia, November 7th through the 9th. And I want to make sure that you all have that as a source of reference for your ability to contribute if you so choose to do so. Okay. Okay, while we're putting the PowerPoint back up, another point of reference that I want to tell you all about is a nonprofit organization that is based in Haiti that is focused on empowering Haitian people through education. This is a localized nonprofit. I can share this after the CLE as well with you all, and it's called P4H Global, and this is an organization that was co-founded by a Haitian native who lives in Florida right now, and what she does and focuses on is providing educational resources to Haitian people. As we know, education is a centerpiece of being able to access more resources, and that's the scope in which that they are targeting the work, and I want you all to know that that's a way that you all can contribute as well. Yeah, okay. Outside of these sources, I think continuing to come to spaces like this that talk about the interconnectedness with Haiti and the things that are going on is a really good way to continue having access to information and not being in a silo, and making sure that we continue to look at social engineering through a global lens and not just a domestic lens. Thank you.
All right, so we're actually going to get into the Q&A section now.
Anyone have questions? Just raise your finger now. Come and collect your
So I have a card, Robyn.
card.
Oh, you have a card? Okay, I see we have cards as well. Let's see. I know, well, I also have some questions as well, so I'm going to start with Gary. I know you touched on some of it, but did you have anything to add to the question of what is the current state of affairs in Haiti? And come up to the podium so we can make sure to record it for if folks were being recorded, so just so you know. Okay, thanks.
The current state of affairs in Haiti is being implemented by that UN resolution that I mentioned, 2699 was done in October 3, so that you have this presidential council that's in place that couldn't get themselves together to speak in one voice, but through the Prime Minister, I think, in practical purposes, that's who's running the country. But that doesn't mean that the neighborhoods are safe. Currently, still unsafe to go in various neighborhood by neighborhood. The kidnappings were still going on. In fact, somebody was informed somebody got kidnapped last week. So the same situation is still there. They have a small win with the general hospital that they moved the gangs out of that had taken control of the general hospital. They moved them out of that hospital. So they're making progress, but slowly. And this is why, again, I had mentioned earlier that we need to engage with them more into doing things that can affect the current affairs in Haiti. That news needs to come out. I'm not hearing much anymore on the news coming daily about Haiti, outside of what's on the social media.
If I may add to that, I think, you know, again, I applaud President Ruto's commitment to global justice and peace and security, because I think that it shows the spirit of Pan-Africanism, it shows the spirit of Black unity, because as we have seen in Haiti and many places across the world, especially Black nations, interventions have never worked. We look at the United States, there was an intervention in Haiti by the United States from 1915, lasted for about 20 years, left the country worse off than it was. And then intervention by the United Nations, which brought cholera into the country and led to deaths of thousands of people, and thousands of people are also still sick, and there's been no restitution paid. So can you imagine if the UN was found responsible for bringing cholera on U.S. shores, and people actually died and got sick, they would have had to pay some kind of restitution. Well, they have not done that for Haiti, right? That's the reality. So history have told us that interventions have not worked. So there's been a lot of skepticism about the UN mission, which is going to be led by Kenya. It's Kenya, Jamaica, Benin, and a few other countries. But I think, as I said earlier, if the root cause of the issues the root causes are addressed, it could be successful. But absent of that, it won't. That's the reality. But I think it's also an opportunity for President Ruto to show to the Western world what a prosperous collaboration could look like between Black nations, right? Because, you know, the African continent with 1.4 billion people, 55 member states, there needs to be more collaboration between the Caribbean and the African continent, right? So the reason why we're not hearing much more about the insecurity is because they wanted to create a condition so that it could be accepted. So now that the deployment has happened, there's no need for U.S. to focus on the insecurity crisis in Haiti anymore, because the condition has been created for people to accept this mission to actually happen. Because there was a lot of resentment, there was a lot of conversations within the diaspora saying they did not want this mission in the country because previous missions have not worked, right? The diaspora, even members of Congress have called for this mission to not actually happen, right? So now that the condition has been met so that society could accept us, you're not gonna hear much about Haiti's insecurity crisis anymore because the job is now done. So I wanted to add that part to it.
Okay, and then Johanna, I have a question for you. As far as what would you say are some of the basic needs of the Haitian people at this time? I mean, I know we said we're going to do follow-up, and I do want to get like kind of boots on the ground, but from your understanding, what would you say are some of the things? Are there needs of like food, clothing, things like that, medical supplies?
As I said earlier, more than 500 people in Haiti have been displaced. That's a lot of people. 500,000, thank you. How many did I say?
500.
Yeah, more than 500,000 people have been displaced. That's a lot of people. You know, key infrastructures in Haiti have collapsed. You know, the healthcare system in Haiti is very weak. So everything is needed, right?
Okay.
But what's needed most is, I would say, because we've seen time and time again, humanitarian assistance does not always work. I think we need humanitarian assistance, but it's not all that the country needs. For example, for every dollar that goes into Haiti, 90 cents come right back to Washington. So the country gets 10 cents on the dollar. That is a fact. So Americans will say, as an American myself, as a taxpayer, well, we're sending all this money to these countries in Haiti, countries in the Caribbean and Africa, and they're still destabilized. There's not much progress. Well, you have to understand how foreign aid works, right? So the money does, U.S. allocates funding, USAID, U.S. allocates funding for various countries. USAID executes projects on the ground with State Department, right? And you have the IMF and World Bank provides funding to loans to countries. So if we are serious about the rebuilding of Haiti, we have to look at investments, trade and investments. We have to look at the economic component, because Haiti is dealing with 4 crises simultaneously: political crisis, humanitarian, governance, and economic. And all 4 must be addressed in tandem. You can't do one and not the other. So Haiti needs jobs. We need companies to go into the country and invest. But obviously, as an investor, you want to know that your business is going to be protected. You want to know that if you go and you build, let's say, a hospital in Haiti right now, you want to make sure the gangs are not going to burn it down, right? So you want to make sure that there's some level of security in the country so that your investment can be protected. People don't go into countries because they love the countries so much. They go into countries to invest because they want a return on their investment. At our law firm, one of the things that we do is we advise businesses when they're going into various markets across the African continent. And one of the key elements, some of the key elements are, is there a judiciary in the event that disputes were to arise? Because when disputes will arise, that they know that they will get a fair hearing in court. Does that exist? Right now, I can tell you the answer to that in Haiti is no. Secondly, is there security in the country so that knowing that my investment will be protected? The answer is no right now. Is there political stability in the country? The answer is no, right? So. But it does not mean that we cannot lay the foundation and the groundwork for us when we've reached some level of normalcy, that we can go into the country and invest. And I call on Congress to pass comprehensive legislation that will help with the creation of jobs, because we need to pump money into the Haitian economy so that we can revitalize the economy, but we have to look at the economic component of it. We can't leave that part out if we're going to be successful.
Okay, and Johanna, I'll stick with you. I know you're limited on time. We're coming into an election cycle. We have the Biden administration. We have the Trump, former President Donald Trump. What would you say that the Biden administration can do, like in real time, to help with this crisis situation in Haiti?
Well, I think I said this in my presentation earlier. With the issue of insecurity, we know where the guns are coming from. Florida, Georgia, Texas. We have the data. And the United States have agreed to this. So what's the problem, right? So there has to be that political will to actually make it happen. And absent of that political will, no matter how great of a job that Kenya does on the ground, it's not going to be fruitful, right? So you're stopping the gangs, but yet the guns still coming in, and you can't control that, right? So I think these are some things that can happen immediately. It's a low-hanging fruit, right? So that's number one. 2, the United States has to pump money into the Haitian economy. We have to pump money into the Haitian economy so that there can be jobs, right? Because let me add this. I think it's very important for you guys to understand. The difference between the insecurity crisis we see in Haiti and the insecurity crisis we see in many places, particularly in the Middle East, is that the insecurity is not driven by an ideology. It's not an ideology, it's driven primarily due to lack of economic opportunities. So you have these gangs who are recruiting young men and young women in some instances to be a part of these enterprises, to commit crimes, because they don't have access to some of the most basic necessities. So if you're telling these young people to drop their weapons, you have to replace it with something else. School, job, something. Otherwise you won't be successful, right? And because it's not driven by an ideology, it's not too hard to fix, again, if there's the political will. So we have to make sure that we have options for the young people. And I think Prime Minister Dali Koni provided some data recently about the number of young people that are in the gangs. And I don't have the number right in front of me, but it is quite concerning. They have so many young people who are involved, but it's because of, again, lack of economic opportunities and educational opportunities. So those are two low-hanging fruits, and there are many more. But in the meantime, I think Congress must work on legislation to address the economic aspect of the crisis in the country currently.
Okay, and Tazzy, as a law student, if you had the opportunity to talk to President Biden about this situation in Haiti, what would you be asking him?
Oh, that's a great question. I think the first thing that comes to mind is thinking about the access to folks who are coming to this country and addressing immigration, because I think for far too long there's been favorable policies for immigration for certain countries and not for all countries, specifically Black countries, and Haiti being one of them. And I think that would be something that I would recommend, especially with, the access to legal representation in that regard, because a lot of folks end up going through the system on their own.
And Johanna, I know you have to leave, but did you have any parting words before you left? I know there was a question. It looks like you have a question from the audience.
Yeah, so someone asked me, I heard Johanna say the big issue is corporate American greed. Is French greed a problem too? Yes, French is also a major problem.
Percentage is the issue. You see, we're just news people. All we know is what we see on the news. What percentage is the problem?
The French also plays a role, and there's like the core group, France, and there are other countries that play a role in the destabilization of Haiti, not just the United States. Some of our foreign policies here have not always been favorable to the state of Haiti nor the people of Haiti. So,
would you say that the French are more responsible for the economic condition than the United States?
I'm going to leave that up to my colleague who's going to speak on that more in depth, okay?
Joanna, I have one question about stabilization of government in Haiti. What do you see as the vehicle to stabilize the government? Because all of these other factors, these outside factors, are not going to want to invest in a country that does not have a stabilized government. Is there a time frame or is there something that we can push forward to help stabilize government in Haiti so that these other corporate sponsors and everybody can get involved?
So the mission of this interim government in Haiti, there are two prongs to it. One is to facilitate the Kenyan-led mission into the country. One. Secondly is to organize free, fair, transparent, and inclusive elections, which are scheduled, as of right now, they're supposed to take place in November of 2025, and by February 7th of 2026, we should have a new government in place. That's the mandate of this new interim government currently. So, as I said during my presentation, I think that lawyers in this room can play a role in the electoral process in Haiti. I don't know if you guys are aware, but a lot of times in foreign countries, when they're having elections, they do send delegations to the country to observe. And I think that at this time, National Bar Association should have a delegation to go to Haiti, assuming that we get the right security. And the goal is by the time we organize the elections, there will be some level of normalcy in terms of security in the country, because they're not going to organize elections without security, because that has been part of the reason why elections have not taken place in their countries because the insecurity crisis had been so dire. So I do hope that, and I think under the leadership of our newly elected chair, Barbara Simmons, there should be, and I think she would agree to this, help lead a delegation to Haiti so that we can observe the process and support. But there's going to be a great deal of work that needs to be done. And I can tell you this, as someone who used to work for the Haitian government, like for example, helping to train, staffers that are going to work with newly elected members of parliament, especially the committee that deals with judiciary, right? Because their system is similar to the U.S., how the U.S. Congress operates. So there's a committee on judiciary, right? So lawyers who can support some of these staffers, even some of these elected officials that are going to serve on this particular committee, helping them, helping to prepare, to collaborate. And I don't always say capacity building, because I think that.
Okay, everyone, I'm sorry to interrupt, but I do see that the next panel is coming in, and I said that this was going to be a part one. I see we've had some questions from the audience, but I do, for the sake of time, we want to be respectful of the next panelists that are coming in. So I'm going to bring Barbara Simmons up to give her closing remarks. And we have your questions. We do anticipate we'll be doing a part two. Maybe it'll be in DC, or we may be doing it virtually. Please make sure to sign in on the sign-in sheet so we can let you know about the part two of this presentation. And thank you all for coming.
What about reparations?
Yeah, we're gonna do part two.
Thank you. In view of the time, I want to thank all of you who participated. Make sure you sign the yellow sheet in the back. In order to ensure you get CLEs, and even if you're not interested in the CLEs, we do want to stay in touch and see who's willing to put their hand to the wheel to move this forward. So thank you all for coming. I want to let you know that at 11:30 we will be having a luncheon. The luncheon will be in Pompey 1 room. And also, we have a session this afternoon at 11:30, which is your round table. And Mr. Leroy Wilson Jr. has agreed that he will talk about what are the possible ways and consequences of lawyers getting involved and taking on this issue and others. So come back for that session, and thank you for coming.